I want to introduce the two amazing gentlemen to my left. Right here we have Matt Youngberg, the executive producer, and we have to his left we have Frank Angones, the co-producer and story editor, both of DuckTales on Disney. Gentlemen, thank you guys so much for being here today.
Of course, happy
Welcome.
to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So you both are working on, I would say, one of the most iconic Disney shows out there right now.
I would definitely say that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
I mean, no pressure,
No pressure.
but this is awesome, and we're all very excited.
What is it like working on that?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a lot of hard work because we love the property so much. We love DuckTales so much that it's just this amazing feeling every day to be able to go into work and say, I work on DuckTales. Like, this was the thing that shaped my childhood. It shaped my artistic direction in life in so many ways. And it's like, to be able to go to work and say I'm working on DuckTales is just kind of the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, one of the things that we always talk about in terms of our crew, because we have this unbelievable crew, and the perfect person to work on a DuckTales crew is a person who's 50% so unbelievably excited they can't believe they get to work on this thing they loved as a kid, and 50% so terrified of messing it up every day that we work extra hard and not sleep. Yeah.
That sounds literally like my life right now.
Yeah. You just have to do moment by moment and just try to make it the most awesome moment you can, which is really great, because I mean, I remember coming home from school and watching DuckTales, as you probably do.
Yeah.
So what was it like to get your hands on these characters and make it your own show?
It was, as I said, exciting but super daunting as well, because these are all characters that are icons. These are characters that will live long beyond us. Like, Donald Duck is like 80 years old. You know, once I'm dead and gone, he's still going to be alive. He's still going to be this.
21.
Yeah, he looks
Donald
great.
Duck will bury us all.
So
If
it's
we're
like
lucky.
it's really daunting. It's really a challenge to make sure that you are doing a service to these characters. You're not ruining them because you want to make sure that the legacy stays alive forever.
But at the same time, it's super exciting because we both have kids, and one of the things that we really wanted to do with the show is be able to share the thing that we loved with a new generation of kids. So as we're taking these characters that we all know so well and love so much, it's about trying to find ways to present them in a contemporary context. It's an amazing, it's an honor and a responsibility to try to keep these characters alive, you know, and making them, keeping them relevant for kids today, again, without, you know, pushing them, without breaking them. I always remember there was like, it was a very weird moment when Donald Duck pulled out a cell phone. It was a very like,
We are here now.
we're doing this, and kids won't think twice about it, but it is a little off.
Yeah, it's not something that he usually has done in his history. Yeah.
Yeah, what was
Definitely.
the line? There was a line that was cut from the show. That was the first time Donald ever said it was, after 5 years of internet college, I'm finally going to be a real accountant. I was like, that is definitely not a thing that Donald Duck has ever said before.
Never.
Yeah.
Nope, never.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Can I just simmer in that while you ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. So with this, you guys are working with an incredible cast. And just to name a few, you have David Tennant, you have Bob Schwartz, you have Bobby Monahan. What is working with this amazing, diverse cast?
It's amazing. I use the word amazing a lot when talking about DuckTales, and the cast is part of that amazement. And the really key thing about these actors was finding actors who embodied the types of characters we were trying to portray in DuckTales. And I mean, we searched high and low, and like, when we found these actors, they embodied exactly what we needed from the characters, and they bring so much life to them. So it's like, we had this idea, this vision for these characters, but as the actors were coming in, we kind of re-envisioned the characters a little bit to match the personalities of the actors.
Well, yeah, the push of our show was to always make it about a family, and like a big, complicated, like family comedy with a weird interpersonal dynamic, and to have it feel vibrant, and to have people who have so much stage experience and improv experience and comedy experience. Like, with a cartoon, you don't always get to record everybody together, but these guys are so fresh and they play off of each other so well, even when they're not recording together.
Oh, I thought that you were about to say that they were all in the same room together.
No, we had to stop that. We used to record Ben Schwartz and Danny Pudi together all the time, and we had to book an extra 2 hours for just them. Mostly freestyle rapping. Yeah, it was mostly freestyle rap battling. Yeah.
That's so good.
So jealous of missing out on that.
Where's the footage? Do we have this? Can we have it?
It is really fun.
It is very incriminating. Yeah.
So, like you said, you're bringing DuckTales, a 90s cartoon, into the modern day in 2018. Aside from internet college, what else did you have to consider when you modernized DuckTales?
I think the key with it was we had to modernize it, but in a way that was timeless.
Yeah.
So that it didn't feel like it was like, hey, everything we're doing is about the internet and apps and all of these things. It was, what we wanted to do was contextualize the world that kids currently live in and build it around the characters. So it's normal for older kids to have cell phones and iPads and things like that. So it's like those are parts of the show, but it's not, we don't hang our hats on it. We don't say, hey, pay attention to what we're doing with this, because now it's a whole episode inside the internet. It's like, no, it's more like, what do the characters bring and how can we address the modern world through the characters' eyes? For example, Scrooge McDuck doesn't have the most modern cell phone. He has a gold flip phone because he's very frugal, and the cheapest thing he could get was the flip phone.
Yeah.
But
In
it's
his
made
favorite
of
color.
gold.
But a gold.
In his favorite color.
Yeah. But one of the things, I mean, we will, like one of the nice things about Scrooge is he's such an iconic character. He's been around for ages and ages and ages. And it seems like every generation gets to do a different type of Scrooge, how Scrooge contends with the times. So we do have one character on our show who's like, okay, well, back in the 30s, there was John Rockerduck, who was like this robber baron type competing billionaire, and then of course Flintheart Glomgold was in our show was like the go-go 80s, like Rita's Good villain, and so we did do like an internet tech bro mogul named Mark Beeks, and that's kind of the farthest we ever tip into like contemporary sort of commentary, as a guy whose currency is likes on the internet as opposed to money, and so we find a lot of room with that, but we never want it to feel like dated.
Yeah. You talk about family a lot. That's a big theme in this show. What do you draw from your personal family or your inspiration to get you working on this show as well?
Well, I come from a family of 9 children.
Wow.
And so when we're working with DuckTales, it's like a huge family. And so it's easy to pull things from my life and like contextualizing these characters in this family. One of the first things we did when we started thinking about what to do with the series and the characters and the family was talking about the triplets. And we didn't want them to just be one character. We wanted them to have unique personalities. And so one of the things we hit on was, and again, pulling from our own family experience, is like, okay, well, there's the oldest child, middle child, youngest child, and how does that create a different dynamic? And so we said, okay, so they're triplets, but Huey's like 1 second older than Dewey, who is 1 second older than Louie. So that was a way to kind of give them personalities that were based on something very real.
And one of the cool things, especially with this property, I mean, it's not like so many other properties have been rebooted and rebooted and rebooted. Like, we felt the tremendous pressure of the fact that every 30 years it feels like there's a big wave with Scrooge and Huey, Dewey, and Louie and Donald and all the characters. And so the nice thing, the natural thing is when we were kids, we identified with Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby. And now that we're parents, we identify with Scrooge and Donald. And it's an interesting kind of meta thing where we're introducing our kids to this world of DuckTales adventures at the same time that Donald and Scrooge are introducing Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby to those adventures. And it's just like, it's like us saying, it's like, hey kids, there was this amazing show when we were kids called DuckTales, and this is what it felt like. And that's always kind of what we go, that's always the thing that we're trying to go for, is does it feel like DuckTales? Regardless of, the times have changed, the voices have changed, the characters have changed, but if it still feels like a big, rollicking, like comedy adventure with heart, then as long as it feels that way, we'll know we've done our job.
Yeah.
So I have a very weird question, but I think it's on the mind of a lot of people who are familiar with Disney characters. So it's 2018, they're carrying around cell phones and using cell phones. Where do they keep them if they don't wear pants?
Yeah.
We're very creative. I mean,
A lot of our characters wear hats.
Yes.
Put them right under that hat.
Yes. If you watch, Huey always places things under his hat, so that's where he's hiding things. Louie has a hoodie, so he's got that. Yeah, we just try to be very creative with where we can put
Dewey
them.
is constantly losing his cell phone, I guess.
Yeah, I don't even know if Dewey ever uses one so far in the show.
He does not know how.
Yeah, that would make sense.
He's a rebel that way.
Yeah, he wants to stand out, be unique.
Yeah.
I don't need a cell phone.
He's using a tin can with a very long string.
You also have some amazing guest stars coming in. You had Lin-Manuel that did an episode. What is like bringing those talents on, and do you have like wishes of like, we want to bring this person on, this is our dream?
Yeah, I mean, it's really something else when you're working. Is another thing about the cast and also the guest cast is so much of our cast grew up with this show too, and they're also so excited about it. They're also so passionate about it, and so that's a really nice vibe. I mean, when Lynn came in to record, Lynn plays Gizmo Duck. He's kind of he's part Peter Parker, part Iron Man in our show. And the first time he came in, I was definitely a little anxious, nervous, and then he came in and sang the entirety of the Moon theme from the DuckTales Nintendo game. I was like,
wow,
cool, we're good. We're good here. Like, it's just so cool to see people, and it's like, again, with the cast that's so cool and so much fun to play with, like, you know, when we recorded Lynn and we played him some David Tennant reference for Scrooge, he was like, he missed his cue, and he was like, oh my gosh, that's Scrooge McDuck. And then when we did an episode with where Scrooge met with his old flame Goldie, who was played by Allison Janney in our show, and we played Allison Janney for David Tennant. David Tennant's like, oh my gosh, that's C.J. Craig from The West Wing. Like, there's a general mutual fanning out of everybody on the show, which just makes it such a joy to work on.
Yeah, it's really great. The actors all love each other, and they really play off each other so well.
Yeah.
When fans watch this show, new fans, old fans, what is the biggest thing you want them to take away from this? And is it going to air at 3:30 in the afternoon like it did for us?
I mean, hopefully it will air every half hour on the hour, if I have anything to say about it.
So you get that gold flip phone, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, we air Saturday mornings. That's the other. I'm actually really stoked about the fact that we air on Saturday mornings. Like, it's Saturday morning
Waking
cartoons.
Up, bowl of cereal, watching it.
It's not the Disney afternoon, but it's something fun that people can kick off their weekend with and watch it with your family, hopefully. Like, that's the fun thing about. One of my favorite things is hearing fans say, I watched this with my parents, like kids saying, oh my gosh, my dad knows about DuckTales. And just families watching it together, because it is about a family and an intergenerational thing.
Yeah, and I think what we really want the fans to take away is, like, the older fans, the ones who grew up with it, we want them to come away feeling like, this feels like DuckTales. This is like, it didn't ruin my childhood. It feels the way that DuckTales should feel. Yeah. We want them to have that feeling, but we want new fans to come in and who don't have that experience, who don't have that nostalgia, and be able to say, I love these characters. Yeah. I love being on adventures with them. I love seeing them make jokes with each other. So we want the young fans to keep coming back because they love these characters. And, you know, in 30 years, when some other poor sap has to reboot DuckTales, they'll be those kids will then be like us, like too terrified to mess it up and so excited to bring it to a new generation of people.
Do you think Scrooge McDuck will have a smartphone by then?
No, absolutely not.
Oh
no, this is the thing that breaks up our partnership.
Oh no.
Oh no, it happened here.
In 30 years, it'll be old technology. So
not on Marvel.
Yeah. Everyone else will be living in the cloud, and Scrooge McDuck will be calling the operator.
So you guys are also big Marvel fans.
Yeah.
And Marvel has played a big part in your guys' past and current. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Totally.
Yeah, no, I've loved Marvel Comics for my whole life. Like, I remember we were talking about this morning. The first thing I really got into in comics, the first comic I ever bought was a Wolverine comic.
Yeah.
And it, like, blew my mind. I was like, what is this whole thing that I have not had in my life yet? And then I got into the X-Men, and there was a run called the Extinction Agenda that I was super into. That was the first thing that really got me. But and then as I went into my career, my first full-time storyboard job was on X-Men Evolution. So, I mean, it sounds like X-Men played a pretty big part in a lot of things.
Just slightly, Matt.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, when we first met, because we didn't know each other before we started working on DuckTales, and, you know, it's that initial meeting of, like, you're feeling each other out, and the thing we bonded over, when we're talking about, well, this is how I want to do DuckTales, this is how I want to do DuckTales, and we bonded over Chris Claremont X-Men comics. Like, we really loved the idea of, like, doing these big, overarching, like, crazy deep mysteries with, like, secrets upon secrets upon secrets, but still the nice thing about those comics is you could read an individual issue and still get a complete story, not be lost at all. Like, you still got a beginning, middle, and end. And so that was kind of our ethos going forward, is never to be so serialized that you would get totally lost in the story if you had never picked it up, but also if you've read everything or seen everything, it actually pays off.
If you can bring a single Marvel character onto DuckTales, who would you choose?
Spider-Ham. I mean, Howard the Duck is the obvious choice.
Yeah, I was gonna think of Howard the Duck.
But the idea of just, I loved Spider-Ham was one of my first comics. I have the entire original run of the old Star Comics Spider-Ham, and it's just, what if Spider-Man was a little weirder, a little funnier, a little sillier, but you could still play with that. It feels like that vibe fits really well with the DuckTales vibe.
And I mean, he's anthropomorphic pig. He fits right in with this whole world of, that we're doing on
And
DuckTales.
also all his side, Captain America and Dr. Doom and Daredevil. Like, our pun game is strong on DuckTales, so
We're ready.
we'll absolutely embrace that. Yeah.
So where can fans follow you guys, and how can fans watch the show?
They can watch the show on Disney Channel and on the Disney Now app. You can follow me on Twitter at the Iron Wrist.
And I'm on Twitter at Frank Angones, and follow at DuckTales and all those other Disney sites. And yeah, we're just ramping up into our season 1 finale, our big final showdown with Magica Dispel. And then we have season 2 coming out pretty soon after that.
Yep. That's awesome. So stay tuned.